Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So now we have the stills from the 5th episode which have now been released. So let us jump right in and go over these stills. So to begin with, we have a look at Egwene, no doubt within one of the White Cloak tents under the questioner's Eamon Valder's mercy, shall we say. Now this is quite evident from what we've seen how it was played out in the books. Egwene is being kind of clothed off. I can't think of the word. Undressed, that's the word. Has been undressed kind of down to this sort of white gown, but maybe what's going on and what's at play here is the fact the White Cloaks may have dressed her in this as kind of what they would use for what people that are being questioned by questioners would wear. That's the kind of feeling I get from this photo, but of course, as we can see from the picture here, the hands that we saw in the teaser that I released maybe an hour or so ago on the channel. So in case you guys haven't seen that, I'll leave a card in the top right corner right here so you can watch the teaser for this week's episode. It was very much the hands of Egwene. Now of course we know a lot of what happens in these scenes, obviously thanks to the Eye of the World and the passage when this occurs, but the real interesting thing to note is we're going to have a slight deviation on who rescues both Egwene and Perrin. Now, whether we get that payoff in this 5th episode or it's in the 6th, we cannot yet know. But one thing we do know, it will not be Lan and Moiraine because they are in a complete separate part of the kind of world, quite a ways away from where Egwene and Perrin are now. And so it's most likely going to be a different sort of rescue, a different sort of outcome or scene outcome. And maybe we'll just get the wolves will come in on their own, attack all the White Cloaks and rescue Perrin and Egwene themselves. And then we'll get kind of the slight original ending from that where Hopper is sadly killed in that moment by one of the White Cloaks. But of course that wouldn't be the same as in the books, because in the books that happens just prior to them being kind of tied to the chairs in question. So there's a few things that might be at play here and slight changes in terms of the sequence in which events play out for this particular scene, which I have no qualms with at all. Right, up next now. Ooh, very interesting picture here. It's no doubt a kind of ceremony the Aes Sedai are holding for their fallen sisters and warders, where they're lighting candles for them and think they're kind of just taking a moment to pay their respects and whatnot. Whether they bury them where they are or they get taken to the White Tower as well is something to be seen. But I'm pretty certain these are the moments we've seen in that teaser where we saw Lan and Moiraine kind of crying and letting out their emotions. But of course, the real interesting thing here for me is if we look at Alana, now she looks to have some sort of ceremonial paint, you know, on this part of her face going in between her eye. Now, it'd be interesting to see if there's an explanation on that point. But yeah, as for what it is or why it's there, I do not know. Oh, okay. Now this is really cool. So this is of the moments where we know Rand and Mat are going to bump into Logain while he's being paraded by the Aes Sedai. So this is really cool. So we know now for a fact where Moiraine, Lan and Nynaeve are going to catch up with both Rand and Mat, because obviously Logain is going to be with those Aes Sedai. So it's really cool. For the scene itself and this still image, I really love what looks to be the building and just how different it looks and feels from what we've seen thus far on the show. And I think that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing, these sort of different locations and just the way each nation builds up their town. Because, you know, as we all know in the books, all the locations that Robert Jordan created were based around of inspirations from certain cities, like Abu Dhabi, if I'm not mistaken, was around Venice, or somewhere was created with Venice in mind, from what I can remember, and so on. So it's going to be really interesting to see as we progress throughout the season and subsequent ones, just how different each nation and city's like architecture is going to look. And of course, this kind of just really showcases Rand and Matt in a kind of more chilled out environment. And you can see there's a few other people looking out from the different parts of the balcony where they are looking and at the procession of Logain coming through the town. It's going to be really interesting. Oh, this photo is a mad one. Oh, I like this. I like this a lot. Okay, so this one shows a lot, and now we got like a full confirmation on what is going on. Logain is clutching at the cage he's in once again. How the Aes Sedai have gotten this cage and where they've magicked it up from, I do not know, because we saw he'd kind of one-powered it out of existence in the last episode. So maybe one of the Aes Sedai channeled it back into existence or created a new one. And you can quite clearly see, looking back at this photo and the previous one, he's without a doubt looking up at both Rand and Matt. Just from like the angles of his face and where he's looking towards. And he just looks a bit crazed, but I also think that's because of who and what he's looking at. And he's just kind of had that moment where he has it very much like in the books, and it's like, oh my god, there's a Ta'veren, and he sees all the chaos that's going to happen because of Rand. So that's really cool, and I'm really happy they've included this in the show. Up next we have a photo of a very quiet moment between Stepin and Lan. I would say this is no doubt in the Warder's quarters in the White Tower, which I think is kind of cool. We're going to see the Warder's quarters, for example. It's going to be, I think, quite a contrast from how the Aes Sedai kind of quarters look like, with each individual Adja obviously having different, I would say, decorations and stuff for each of their Adjas. What they're talking about would most likely kind of be what's just transpired among them all in that previous episode. They seem to be having a drink, well, Lan is at least. But yeah, I think not too much more I can put on this particular photo. I think those are arrows on the wall by the torch, and then there's like this quill here by the torch here as well. But yeah, really nicely well done, and the rugs as well look quite nice. Up next we have a photo of Moiraine and Liandrin in the tower. This is obviously a still from that shot we saw in that teaser like an hour or so ago that I put up. They're no doubt having a conversation along some sort of line. I would have no doubt that it has something to do with Logain and what's transpired on their way to the White Tower in Tavalon. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what is actually spoken out loud here in this scene. I think there's going to be kind of that typical Aes Sedai kind of trickery or talk that they have, where they kind of don't give each other what they want out of each other, sort of thing, where the truth isn't what's spoken out there in. And that's just going to be really cool to see. Up next we have a look at a still of Nynaeve and Moiraine. I would say this is kind of Nynaeve's guest room, and Moraine's come in just to try and put her at ease and just say, you know, what's happened's happened. You know, now you can channel, or we now know that you can channel, and just I'm going to try and protect you as best as I can in the hall of the tower, or in the hall of the tower. because I feel like she's going to no doubt come and be right there in with the Amalency and the rest of all the Adgers that we've seen from many an occasion now in different sort of promotional stills and teasers. And I think it's just one of those moments Moraine is just trying to very much calm her down. But as we all know, Nynaeve is very much her own woman. She doesn't need that sort of thing. She's got a hell of a backbone on her. And I think those sorts of things are going to stand her in good stead in these sorts of moments and occasions. And that was quite evident from the way she replied to Moraine, where you Aes Sedai, you all should be more afraid of me than me of you, because she is obviously more powerful than all of them. And so all she needs to do is be able to control that power, and then she's more powerful than any of them. So they have more to worry about her than she does of them. But yeah, just to talk about the room itself, I love the architecture going on. It's very kind of basic and plain in terms of what's within these rooms, because of course they are guest quarters, and so they're not furnished with kind of the designs an individual and Aes Sedai or warder would have for their own personal room. And so we don't see the kind of intricacies and ornaments and furniture you would normally have in those moments. But that's kind of cool just to see. Up next, this is one of those leaked photos from a while ago. This is Rand and Mat just walking through that same town that we've seen already, where Logain and Nynaeve, Moraine and Lan are in. And I'm sure this is just prior to that moment. They're just kind of walking in the town, finding their kind of bearings and the location of where they're going to be staying in and what inn. And I think it's just going to be really cool just to see how each town kind of has a different feel and the kind of bustle and rustle from just the general population within that town. Oh wow, this is interesting, and this sheds a lot more light on that White Cloak Tinker moment. Now, as you can quite clearly see, they've all, what's the word? Linked their arms together to form a human shield, where they are kind of either protecting their wagons and their people, and particularly maybe even Egwene and Perrin, because I think that would be what this questioner Eamon Valder is very intrigued about, to see these two people here all of a sudden separated from that rest of the group that they were with, that he saw in the second episode. And I think that's what's very much going to be at play here, and that's what's going to get them kind of attacked and assaulted by these White Cloaks. And then, as we all can see from the previous still in this video we got of Egwene and Perrin within the White Cloak tent after they've been captured. But it's just really interesting to see how they're going to form a human shield, and they will not kind of react to the violence that is about to be unleashed upon them, sadly. And then finally, this is that moment where I've spoken about before. Egwene and Perrin, they're being surrounded by a couple of, or three White Cloaks on horseback. And just off to, I would say, the left of this photo is where Aram is knocked out, either unconscious or has been a little bit more of a fatal assault on him. I love the expressions on both of their faces. They're very much scared and afraid of them. I would say this is because they've seen how they react to people, and especially being among such a peaceful and non-violent group such as the Tuatha, the Tuatha. They have seen kind of both extremes of that kind of scale, and so they just can't get their heads around a group that are supposed to be in the light, a good group, assaulting a group of people that will not harm them in any way or attack a member of the White Cloaks, which is interesting in of itself. But perhaps the reason Aram is knocked out or kind of dead is because he attacked one of the White Cloaks to try and get them off of Egwene and Perrin, and so that's potentially what could be at play in this particular scene. But yeah, all in all, really interesting couple of 10 photos or so. I think it gives a little bit more insight into what we can expect within the 5th episode. I cannot wait for Friday now, as I'm sure all you guys can't either. But yeah, that is the end of the video. I hope you all have enjoyed it once again. If you have, please leave a like on the video, and of course any comments you have, leave in the comment section down below. Alright guys, I will leave the video here and I'll catch you all at a later date in the week, most likely Friday.